Previously on the 007 Diamond Jubilee, there was Die Another Day. And it sucked. The Bond franchise took a brief hiatus afterwards, during most of which Pierce Brosnan was still set for the lead role. One concept for the next film was an adaptation of Casino Royale, the first novel written by Ian Fleming, which would have been directed by Quentin Tarantino, fresh off the Kill Bill films, filmed entirely in black and white, and co-starring Brosnan and Uma Thurman. That never came to be, but vestiges of it can be seen in the final product, which came about in 2006 as Casino Royale. Hi, I'm Kevin from the SDP, and this is the 007 Diamond Jubilee. Our story starts in Madagascar, where James Bond, the newly christened 007, tracks down a freelance bomb maker who leaves behind a clue on his cell phone. It leads him to Alex Dimitrios, a man operating out of the Bahamas, who organizes a terrorist attack at the Miami-Dade airport, only for it to be thwarted by Bond. It turns out, above Dimitrios, the attack was orchestrated by a Mr. Lashif, who had made a risky stock trade to profit off the would-be disaster. With his fortunes now in the red, he sets up a multi-million-dollar poker game in Montenegro. And of course, Bond gets assigned to the game to make sure he stays in the red. About a year before Casino Royale's premiere, our new Bond was unveiled, Daniel Craig, a veteran of small-scale films like Munich and Layer Cake. He received a cold reception from the press and public upon his unveiling, for the sole fact that his hair was blonde. But once we saw him in the finished product, I'm proud to report that all the haters shut up. Craig brings with him all manner of emotional depth, from frustration when Vesper won't let him continue the poker game, to snarking in the face of danger during his torture scene with Le Chiffre, and one of the best 007 love affairs since On Her Majesty's Secret Service. Also, he has a thing for married women.
Don't worry, you're not my type.
Smart.
Single.
The Bond girl, Vesper Lind, is an envoy from Her Majesty's Treasury sent to oversee Bond in the poker game. Her initial cover story is Bond's wife, in a suite with 2 bedrooms, no less, and with all the witty banter between him, she plays the part wondrously on both sides of the fourth wall.
There isn't enough room for me and your ego.
On the other hand, she shares the role with Solange Dimitrios, the wife of one of the villain's henchmen. Shallow love interest ahoy! Only this time, she's already married! A mainstay from the Ian Fleming books, Rene Mathis makes his film debut here as Bond's contact in Montenegro. He's a deliciously manipulative agent who has Lashif's allies arrested behind the scenes, but to be honest, his actions bear little on the plot. Then things get complicated, not to mention much more spoilery, and made even more so by the next movie. CIA agent Felix Leiter returns, this time reincarnated by Jeffrey Wright, marking the first time that Leiter was played by an African ethnic in the Eon canon. The fact that I'm even making that statement reflects how seriously we take race relations in America, but the nice thing is that Wright doesn't play a typical black version of Leiter, he just plays a version of Leiter who happens to be black. Anyway, he joins in the poker tournament, to little effect mind you, and volunteers in capturing Lashif, to little effect mind you. The villain is Lashif, a banker for terrorists and a math genius. A cut over one of his tear ducts means he cries blood from time to time, but this effect is too subtle to notice, honestly. His acting is strange, but he does something few Bond villains ever do: show vulnerability. Stephen Obanno, leader of a Lord's Resistance Army unit, and Mr. White, leader of Lashif's criminal organization, are both after Lashif for him having fooled around with their client's money. The bomb maker from the beginning of this film is named Molaka. His actor was one of the founders of freerunning and/or parkour, and thus he uses it in his chase with Bond. Which leads to one hilarious moment when he leaps up through a gap in a wooden wall, but Bond just rams through said wall. Quite a turnaround from the car chases of old, where Bond always displayed more finesse than the bad guys. The only other henchman of note is Alex Dimitrios, the organizer of the planned Miami airport bombing. What can I say about someone who doesn't have many, if any at all, lines to his name? After 19 film appearances by 3 actors, the character of Q was retired for this reboot, and thus there are no gadgets in the traditional sense. However, there is a lot of cell phone tracking going on, which makes sense. I mean, these are the kind of gadgets that would have been in the earlier films, only made available to the general public, so why not hop aboard that train? Bond also drives a classic Aston Martin DB5, sans gadgets, and a new Aston Martin DBS, also sans gadgets. The theme song, entitled You Know My Name, is performed by Chris Cornell. A veteran of the bands Soundgarden and Audioslave, Chris Cornell serves as the first solo male singer of a Bond theme since Thunderball in 1965, which is appropriate since You Know My Name also serves as a sort of image song for James Bond. Or perhaps another 00 agent. There's a line that goes, "I will replace you." Or that could be the up-and-coming 007 referring to an older 00... whatever. Also of note, the Monty Norman theme is not used until the end credits. Rather, You Know My Name is sampled from many of the film's leitmotifs, to great effect I'd say. The opening credits use playing card and other gambling motifs, because... casino. One of my favorite effects is the CGI men in suits who fight and break up into suits, hearts, diamonds, etc., when hit. And notably, the only woman in the sequence is a headshot photo of Vesper. Yes, shying away from the traditional naked silhouette girls is a departure for the series, and I couldn't be prouder for them for making this kind of switch once in a while. Despite being adaptations of the same novel, this Casino Royale is the polar opposite of its comedy adaptation from 1967, which I had attempted to include in the series but wasn't able to. And the new one differs from the old one in that it is a great film. Its strengths lie in its sharply written dialogue, the vulnerability of its characters, and how they react to their situations. Daniel Craig's Bond snarks in the face of danger, Eva Green's Vesper struggles to get out of her trauma, and Mads Mikkelsen's Lashif lives in fear of his clients and superiors with whom he's betrayed their trust and money. And with the absence of Q, Moneypenny, gadgets in the traditional sense, and maniacal supervillains bent on taking over the world, this is a changing of the guard the likes of which have not been seen since the last Bond movie Mark and Campbell directed. I have admitted to liking Timothy Dalton as my favorite Bond actor, but Craig handles the role much to the same effect, and with better hair too. Thanks to his efforts, Casino Royale scores 95%, an A, and a Dragon Award. This film is a must-see.
Shaken and stirred.
Do I look like I give a damn?